Hey, we are live.
We are live. Welcome to the Demand Better podcast. I am your host, David Corner. And of course, as always, I am joined from Superior, Colorado, Dr. Bo Bobenko, the reigning champion. This is your Demand Better from Aging version, episode 13 of our Demand Better series. This is the quick version. Dr. Bo, define aging.
All right, so aging is interesting. I've talked about this for a long time in my practice. The fact that aging is nothing more than accumulated damage. So every day we have damage done to us. We have certain stressors. We have certain workouts do damage to us. It's all about how we can manage the damage. Copyright that. But the interesting thing here is I'm going to give credit to the book Lifespan by David Sinclair, which the subtitle is Why We Age and Why We Don't Have to, right? Very interesting stuff. And he talks about the fact that aging is a disease. And the only reason it is not and has not been defined as a disease is this arbitrary concept that if more than 50% of the population is exposed to this, then we can't use the term disease. So there's a lot there, but we do think it's a disease, and it's something that we should not just accept. So that's a big part of why it's important to define, understand, and change how we think about the concept of aging.
It's a great definition, my friend. That's a great definition. Let's do a quick top five. So our number one is that it's never too late to start.
That's right. So I hear this all the time again. I get folks who are in their 60s, 70s, 80s, whatever it is, and they're saying, you know, it's too late for me. Like, and no, the truth is, even if, and the analogy I always make with this is, even if you have negative $100 in your bank account, it's never too late to start putting money into your bank account. And we always make this analogy of the human body, the capacity, the fitness that we're building. This ties into aging. We're going to talk about that in number two, but it's never too late. The body is deteriorating. Yeah, we can talk about that. But again, it's how much can we start undoing that? It might be a little bit of a harder journey. You can't expect to make the same gains as a 25-year-old if you're 75, but there's still plenty of room. And I want to hear you talk about this in our deep dive. I know you have a lot of clients in that age range, so I'm excited to hear that.
Yeah, oh yeah. You know, when we get more into the deep dive, I will say this too. I have a 95-year-old client that was in a walker that's walking perfectly fine now. I mean, you move. If you don't move, you're going to lose it. If you don't do the things that you need to do physically, you're going to lose it as you get older. The one thing I'm going to say, not to give too much up before we go to the next one, is that Dr. Bo says this all the time, that muscle is the organ of longevity.
It's number two.
And that is number two. Go ahead.
I don't know. You want to finish your thought?
No, but the muscle is the key to all of this, but you take it.
Yeah, so it ties into our financial analogy is the more muscle we have and the more we can maintain, the longer theoretically we're going to have better quality of life. So this is where we're talking about the concept of health span, not just lifespan. So I posed this question to my social media yesterday, is how long do you want to live, right? And if you could live to 200 years old, but between 100 and 200, you're not living a very good quality of life. That's not great. So if we can start talking about muscle capacity, the ability to go up and down a flight of stairs, carry your groceries, play with your grandchildren, all of these things are things we should be thinking about. And muscle is the key to that. So again, it's expensive to maintain muscle. You do have to do work for it. But again, like you're talking about, if you have somebody who's walking with a walker and they haven't done basic strengthening type exercises, but we can start waking that up, putting a plan together, getting the muscle to build, to grow. That is what will now, again, build our bank account of fitness, of ability to do things. And again, another definition of fitness is how useful are you in the world? So if you're more useful, if you have more muscle, if you're able to do more things, if you're able to run across, save a kid from a burning building or anything like that, those are the little kind of, again, CrossFit uses those kind of definitions of functional fitness. But at the end of the day, we understand that we lose muscle as we age, but we need to start fighting that. Just like you lose money as you spend it. You got to make more money somehow. So how are we going to do that? We're going to work out. So let's tie that in.
Just real quick on that. There's a misnomer in this country that they're just older, and we need to push ourselves as we get older even more, because it is more difficult to get from point A to point B. But the effort is what's necessary, and it's not the coddling in this situation. Number 3, genetic versus epigenetics. Dr. Bo.
Yes, sir. So genetics, and this the very kind of crude analogy here is genetics is what loads the gun. Epigenetics is what pulls the trigger. So what that means is if you have a history of cancer in your family, a history of dementia, a history of diabetes, these are all things that can be genetically passed down. So you have that script inside your genetics. But the epigenetics is what you do day in, day out, your habits, the choices you make. That is what pulls the trigger. So even if you are likely to get cancer, it is really up to you to make the decisions and do the research. And that's where, again, we're trying to make sure we have these conversations and get the information out there of, hey, these things might be leading to a higher chance of cancer or whatever the thing is. So understanding your genetics is very important, but also understanding you have some control, if not a lot of control, of being able to minimize these risks. And again, that comes down to food, lifestyle choices, smoking, things like that are all going to play a part in the epigenetics, and understanding the difference between those two is very important. Where again, a lot of folks have that mindset of, well, my mother had cancer, or my father died of a heart attack at 41. So should I just say, hey, I'm 38. I only got, I don't have a lot more time. Like I have that going, and I have a very different lifestyle than he had for many, many reasons. We're going to go probably deeper into the deep dive.
But the thing about that is the one takeaway I can give you from what Bo just said, it's really simple. You are not helpless. You have an opportunity. You can change this. That's why the Demand Better podcast is here to empower you and to give you strength moving forward. Number 4, prevention.
Yeah. So again, this is a huge topic. Aging in general is phenomenal. Again, if we make it the simple definition of aging is accumulated damage every single day, whatever I'm drinking in here, this is black coffee, but whatever that is, there he's got his water. Maha is a camel. My wife, she drinks all the water in the world. She goes through a lot of water. So bottom line is, if we start to think about accumulated damage, whatever that thing that we're doing is, every drink of alcohol, right? A nice, easy trick that will give us an example here is, for every drink of alcohol I have when I go out to a fun night out, I need to have 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C to kind of combat or balance that out, right? That's an easy way to think about that. But when we're talking about prevention of diseases and things that come with aging, such as sarcopenia, which is basically the loss of muscle mass. So if we're not creating the stimulus to keep that muscle going, how do we prevent that? So understanding the things that are coming from aging, right? And again, it's common that we lose muscle mass, but it's not normal. It's kind of normal, but again, it's not what should be happening. We should be doing, and we can fight that. So prevention comes back to understanding how much money you have in your bank account, and how do we add to that and minimize how much is getting taken out of our bank account. So that's the analogy with prevention. Again, kind of ties into some of these other points, but I think it's a very vital thing to think about no matter your age. Again, my Bo 30 concept that I'm going to throw back at everyone here, if you've been listening, is in 30 minutes, I can get you moving better and get you out of pain. And we're going to put a plan in place for 30 days. And that takes us into the next 30 years. And that's the prevention concept. If we can start thinking with a 30-year type of mindset, no matter what your age, even if you're 80 years old, I want you thinking 30 years from now. And so let's start getting that moving, rolling, and prevention is a pretty powerful thing.
Yeah, the one thing about that is that people have to remember, and I'll just make this as quick as possible. You have to keep putting money into the bank account, as Bo says. There's no easy fix. There's no I'm not doing it from it. You have to do it on a consistent basis.
And before you do that, before you go to number 5, I appreciate your rapidness there. We're doing good on time, so we have a few minutes. But I want to throw in this last piece on prevention that I think always sticks with me is an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And the other one I'm actually going to throw out as well is, and this ties into prevention, and our first one of It's Never Too Late to Start is, the best time to start was 20 years ago. The next best time to start is today or now. So yeah, so those are two very powerful kind of cliches, idioms, but they have a lot of power. So if you need to go throw that on your fridge or whatever it is, like let's keep pushing that, and Motivation Monday on Instagram or whatever, but let's keep it moving.
Hey, great advice. Great advice. Number 5.
So
Biohacks.
biohacks, yes, biohacks is a term, and I put it in quotations because there's a lot of stuff here. And again, what we're trying to do and what our mission here at Demand Better is to kind of weed out true science, hard science, what we know is going to help you live better, longer life, which coming back to the muscle is the organ of longevity, the things we know reduce all-cause mortality, meaning you're going to live longer, you're going to live a better quality of life, is grip strength, leg strength, so you don't fall and break a hip, is the ability to get up and down off the floor. It's a sign that we have good mobility and good strength in general. So other factor, VO2 max, I did a video about that yesterday. I was out on my jog and wanted to share some of those concepts. Basically, the ability to bring oxygen into our body, get it to our cells, and the waste product of carbon dioxide, we want to push that out. So we're going to go a little deeper on all this. But again, biohacks there's some good stuff there, but there's also a lot of marketing, sales, BS. Yes. And some of the stuff, though, is promising. And again, I've played with it. I've done some deeper research on things like NAD+, which is a naturally occurring thing inside of us. You can go get an IV injection. You can take the precursors, NMN or NR, and there's a lot there. Biohacks, again, other ways to think about that is one of those other things that we know connects to less likely to live a long quality life is how much sugar and insulin we spike. So metformin is another one of those biohacks that gets talked about now. We're not going to go too deep into it, but I just wanted to throw it out there because it is a big biohack. But what we can do now is start to understand our blood glucose sugar. It's enough to start thinking about avoiding something like diabetes, which is likely going to cost you and the medical system a whole lot of money. I think the number is about $15,000 a year for everyone who has type 2 diabetes, which is preventable, which is reversible with all of the right kind of mindset and proper medications. And if you're truly addressing the cause, which is another big part of all this. But coming back to it, A1C is a huge biohack, not really, but it's a common blood test that gets done. That's looking at your blood sugar spikes for the last 6 months, the average of your blood sugar. So that's how they actually diagnose pre-diabetes and full diabetes and getting your blood sugar under control. A huge part to long-term health. The other one I'm going to throw in, since we have a little bit of our 15 minutes window here, is another thing that gets talked about in longevity research is calorie restriction. They do this on mice, and they find that when they restrict calories from mice, they live a bit longer than mice who eat ad libitum, meaning they eat however much they want, which kind of makes sense. But again, these are studies in mice. So we did our a series on research and all of the problems with research. So there's a lot here. And this biohacks one is clearly one of the big ones that we can go all sorts of paths with, since that's what I'm doing. I'm just taking advantage of the fact that we have a little bit of a time window. But I'm going to wrap it up by saying that calorie restriction is not necessarily what's going to help humans live longer, especially when we think about the fact that muscle is the organ of longevity from point 2. So we have to start balancing these things out. We have to start thinking about how this fits into our values, our choices. But there's a lot of things to be said here. When you start
I'm going to stop you right there, Dr. Bo. I'm going to totally stop you right there, because at 3 o'clock today, about 10 minutes from now, we're going to go into a deep.
That's Eastern time. You have to say Eastern time. Not everyone's in Eastern time.
I'm sorry. I'm high right now because the New York Yankees keep winning and keep winning and keep winning. So I'm just excited. But I can't wait to see you all back at 3 o'clock Eastern time. Remember, the Demand Better podcast is here for you. We are trying to get you the best information, the most accurate information to give you everything that you need and to empower you. See you in a bit. Have a good one. Demand Better.
Whoa, I didn't hit the right button. Oh my God. What's happening?